Hey, what's up, folks? How is it going? This is Abhijit here, and welcome to DevOps Challenge Hub. So let's start with today's interview question. And today we have some interesting set of questions. Uh, like we are going to discuss about access control and policy management, and there will be like different interesting questions. So stay till the end. Okay. So let's start with the first question. What is the difference between implicit and explicit deny in policy? So but in the previous day, we have discussed about user role policies and groups, right? User, we create a user. User is we create a user, and user has user ID, password, username and password, or access keys, secret keys, right? And a user is able to log into the dashboard, but it doesn't have any access to any resources. Like it can't launch any EC2 instance S3 unless we explicitly allow by policies. In policy, we say that allow EC2 instance access or launch EC2 instance or S3 upload or S3 all access, all types of access or deny access to this. And that policy we attach to user. Once we attach, then only user will be having that permission. Or that policy we attach to the group. Once we attach to the group, whoever are there part of the group, they'll be able to have same permissions, whatever permissions mentioned in the policy. So policy is nothing but a permission document, right? And then we have the rules. Rules are what? Rules are more secure way of handling, giving permission. For example, like user we create for permanent access, keys, etc. But roles, it's temporarily get the credential. Mostly we assign role to say CD pipeline or EC2 instance or Lambda function because it has to perform certain action on some AWS resources. Maybe Lambda wants to upload some file to S3 bucket. It needs permission to access S3, upload the files, right? So for that we assign role. We don't assign users. We don't create users and configure user details. So we discussed all this. Now, so today's question is the difference between an allow, implicit, explicit, denying policy. So allow means grants permission to perform an action. Deny explicitly block an action. Even if another policy allows it, it explicitly denies it. Implicit deny, by default, everything is denied. So you create an user and everything is denied by default. It's implicit deny. You did not mention anything, but it's denied. That user won't be able to do anything unless you specifically mention that, okay, this user can do this activity in the policy document. And explicit deny, it's the strongest rule. Even if you allow it, if someone says explicit deny, then it will be override everything. It doesn't matter if someone has allowed or not earlier. Deny means it overrides everything. It's the strongest rule. So explicit allow, grant access. Explicit deny, block access, even if allowed elsewhere. Implicit deny, default for everything, not explicitly allowed. If you don't mention, by default, we assume that you are not allowed. If it is not mentioned in the document, policy document, by default, we assume that you are not allowed. For access, it has to be mentioned in the document that you are allowed to access. Clearly, it has to be mentioned. Okay. For example, this IAM policy, if you look at it, version 2012, 10, 17, it has an effect allow. Okay, allowing action. Action is get object, means this policy is allowing to get object. So get any objects from this my bucket. Resource is my bucket. My bucket, whatever objects are there, it will be able to view it. Okay, able to get the objects, object reading objects in the my bucket. But here we are denying also. Denying what? Under my bucket, there are private folder. You are denying it. So under private folder, whatever objects are there, that is explicitly denied. Here, initially we denied everything here. Like under my bucket, everything is allowed. Sorry, everything is not denied. Everything is allowed under my bucket. But here, after that, we are saying no. Don't. This private won't be under private. Whatever objects are there, it won't be allowed. So except private, everything is allowed. Right? Allow reading the my object. Denies reading objects inside my bucket private, even though it's allowed above. Even though it's allowed above. So this is the strongest rule. So deny wins. So deny wins. what is the purpose of conditions in IAM policies? What is the purpose of conditions in IAM policies? Why do you need conditions in IAM policies? The purpose of condition in IAM policies so add fine grained control over permission is granted. Restrict access based on time, IP address, MFA tags, etc. Enhance securities by enforcing context-based rules, customized behavior for specific users, roles, or environment. So these are the benefits of conditions. Fine grained control, restrict access based on certain conditions. It will enhance security and you can customize behavior. Let's see one example. Allow S3 access only from specific IP. So you are allowing S3 access to all the files under this my bucket from on condition this IP address. Like if you're getting request from this, then only you will be allowed. Not everyone in the internet will be able to access. So you are allowing based on this. MFA required multi-factor authentication. If the user is signed in with multi-factor, then only it will be allowed. Allow based on the resource tag. If resource tag is dev team, then only or DevOps team, then only it will be allowed. Time-based access. If it is a time is greater than this, then only it will be allowed. So there are the different options. So condition based on the different conditions, we can apply policies. How do we attach policies to users, groups, or roles? So we can just create a policy. We can have multiple policies, policy ABC, and user can be A1, B1, C1, or XYZ. So then we can attach policy to user. Policy we say that this allowed, this is not allowed, and then attach that policy to user or roles or groups. Policy can be attached to groups, roles, or users. So what basically permission document. You create a role, you create a group, you create a user, and policy says what this user can should be able to do, what this role should be able to do, what this group members should be able to do. Right? What's the difference between identity-based and resource-based policy? Identity-based and resource-based policy. Identity-based policy is what? IAM policies, like attached to IAM groups, users, groups, or roles. So these are based on identity. So create a policy and then define what actions users or role or group can perform. So this is identity-based. This which is most common type. Default deny unless explicitly allowed. So by default, it's everything is denied. When you create user, everything is denied by default. Then you create a policy, allow S3 access, and that policy you are attaching to that identity. It can be identity, it can be user, it can be groups, or it can be group, or it can be role. So this is identity based because you are attaching to the identity, user, group, or roles. This is the most common type. Like for example, here, it's a policy is created, list bucket, should be able to list bucket, allow which resource, my bucket XYZ. It can be anything. You specify that which resource, so what action you can be able to do, what is the like effect, allow, and it's allowed to, if you attach to some group or user, that will have that permission. What is the resource-based policy? It is attached to AWS resource. For example, S3 bucket, SNS topic, Lambda function. Means who can access the resource and what they can do. So in S3 bucket, I can say who can access this bucket and what they can do. Can they delete, can they update, what they can do. So it's a resource-based. I'm focusing on the resource, right? In the S3 bucket, I'm putting the policy, right? I'm put the here it's a I'm user-based, right? Identity-based. It's identity access management, IAM, identity access management. Right? But if I go to S3, I think like I have already shown this in my S3 like previous videos, AWS Devops interview videos, S3 bucket where I have created bucket policies, etc. and how it's been done. So that's already been shown. You can refer to that and you will get a clarity on that. But yeah, here in the if you go to bucket and on the bucket side, you can create a policy, bucket, particular bucket wise, resource based policy. Like here, I isolated one bucket. And then I can, in the permission, I can set the policy. So one is identity based, I have to go to IAM, Identity Access Management, and resource based, you have to go to that particular resource part. Like here I am on S3, Amazon S3 buckets, and then I can create a bucket policy here. Here I can create a bucket policy, right? I can create a bucket policy. Okay, so let's go back. So it supports cross-account access. IAM means you are creating in your account. But if you want to support cross-account, if you want to give permission to access, like you don't want to make, if you want to make it public, again you have to set it in a bucket policy. Like anyone in the internet should be able to access your account. So there, you won't go to IAM. IAM is account level. You're creating users in an account level. But anyone in the internet, if they are able to access, they have to bucket level, resource based. Then if you want a particular user from some other account to access your bucket, right? So that also you cannot do in IAM. You have to do it in the resource level from some other account to your bucket. Support cross-account access. So resource-based policy. For example, here allow in principle, we are maintaining this user Alice from the other account to be able to do S3 get object on my bucket objects. Right? Alice from this account, this whatever 123 account, can read objects from my bucket. So this is the policy I'm setting in the bucket policy. This policy I can copy and I can paste it here, right? So identity based is attached to IAM user group or roles, attached to the identity. Policy is attached to the identity. And resource based policy is attached to the bucket. I mean, resource. It can be a bucket, it can be S3, it can be Lambda, right? Specifies what user can do. This policy says what user can do. It specifies who can access the resource. Principal field is required? No, principal field is not required. We have seen this principal field is not required for that. Identity based, but here resource based is required. Cross account support? No. Identity based access, cross account not supported directly, but resource based is supported. So this is the difference. So now let's go to the next question. When should you use an S3 bucket policy versus an IAM policy? S3 bucket policy when will you use? When you want to give public access, when you want to give cross account support, right? When you don't have you don't have, you are not given permission to create IAM users, manage policies. You are not able to see the IAM, like because identity access manager is not able to see because you don't have access permission there, right? So there you only have access to S3 bucket and S. So there also you can do a bucket level policy. Use S3 bucket policy when you want to grant cross account access. Allow another AWS account to access your bucket. You need resource level permission managed at the bucket itself. Resource level permission managed at the bucket itself. You want to do the this bucket, this object, this particular thing. You want to do it in a bucket level because that's more clear actually. Which resource, which path, right? You want to allow anonymous or public access. For example, static web hosting, or you don't manage IAM users. You don't have access to the IAM users, right? You are not admin. You have given only access to yours. So allow another AWS users to read S3 read objects. We have seen this earlier. Principle, right? Here you are mentioning that user, another user. This is another user's account, AWS account ID. Get object action, resource, ARN, right? My bucket, XYZ / star. ARN is Amazon resource name. Amazon resource name. ARN stands for Amazon resource name. So use IAM policy when you want to control access for users, groups, or roles within your AWS account. Within your AWS account, for a particular user, you want to control the access, user level. You want centralized management via IAM. You need to apply permission to multiple services, not just S3. This user should have access to S3, Lambda, should not have access to this. Let apply permission, user level, identity level. You want to enforce permission using MFA tags condition. You want to apply some condition. Allow user to upload to specific bucket. You create a policy, then attach to that user or attach to group. So S3 bucket policy versus IAM policy attached to S3 bucket, IAM policy attached to IAM user. Same like identity based versus resource based. It's attached to user group identity based. This is resource based. This cross account access, yes, not directly. Public anonymous from bucket you can do. From IAM, no. Centralized user permission. Bucket level you can do that. IAM policy, centralized user permission you can manage. Work across multiple services, no. It's only at the bucket level. IAM policy is for multiple resources, not only EC2, Lambda, etc. Right? If IAM policy says user ABCD has full access to S3, but bucket policy says allow, and it's allowing to some other user. Doesn't say anything about this guy, ABCD. So what will happen? Will ABCD will be able to access bucket policy, bucket or no? ABCD IAM policy, ABCD has full access to S3, and bucket policy says allow cross account user S3 update. So ABCD will have access to this because ABCD is not mentioned, right? Can ABCD access user bucket? My bucket? Yes, it can access because IAM policy is allowing it. Bucket policy is not explicitly denying ABCD. It's simply silent about ABCD. Right? It's not explicitly denied means it will be allowed. So in AWS, if IAM user permissions are regulated independently. Bucket policies are like a resource-based policy and can add more access, but it doesn't restrict users unless it has an explicit deny. So if I don't have any bucket policy, doesn't because I'm allowing it. In bucket, if I'm explicitly saying that no, this ABCD guy can't access, then it won't be ABCD won't be able to access, even though I have given permission in the IAM. But I have not mentioned anything explicitly. I mentioned some other user. This guy can access this bucket. So ABCD also can access the bucket, right? Explicit deny in either IAM or bucket policy overrides allow. Explicit deny will override, but there is no explicit deny in bucket policy that we have seen. If IAM allows bucket policy, if IAM allows, bucket policy doesn't deny, access is granted. IAM is allowed, access bucket is policy doesn't deny explicitly, then access will be granted. Bucket policy is often used to give cross-account access or public. These are the two important things. Bucket policy for cross-account access or public access. Okay, this is the last question. Then after that, we'll go to quiz section. How do S3 bucket policies, KMS key policies, and IAM policies interact? We have S3 bucket policy, we have IAM policy identity based, S3 bucket policy resource based, then key management policy, right? So how they interact? So if IAM policy, who is making the request, S3 policy on the resource, KMS policy, whether encryption key access or not. If any one of them denies explicitly, then you won't have access, no access. If any one of them denies explicitly. So, like nobody should deny explicitly. If one of them explicitly giving access, then it's fine. And key you need key management policy to access the key encryption key access. If you are managing with the key AWS key management service, that key management service will cover later in the later interview sessions. But high level, just you remember that these are the different policies and access allow, deny, how it affects. Okay. So example, Alice wants to download an encrypted file. Alice request will be succeeded if IAM policy is giving them access. IAM policy allows S3 object and KM is also giving the access to decrypt. S3 bucket policies may be silent or may explicitly allow her or may be silent. KM allows her to decrypt, she will be able to do it. If anyone explicitly deny her, then she will be able to do it explicitly deny. Otherwise, it's fine. Okay, so let's go to today's quiz section. What is the difference between an allow and deny in a policy? In AWS IAM, what happens if user is granted allow one policy but denying another in the same action? What happens? Explicit deny overrides the allow, right? Explicit deny will override the allow. So answer is will be C. Explicit deny will override the allow. What is the purpose of condition in IAM policies? Purpose of the condition is context based. Context based like IP time MFA, so context based. To add context based restrictions like IP time or MFA, we want to add some context based restriction. What is the difference between the identity-based and resource-based policies? Which of the following true about resource-based policies? They can be addressed to IAM users and groups. No, they define what actions you can take, cross-action accounts, and yeah, this is the one. Support cross-account access and principal field, right? So this is the one. This is the answer. The support cross-account access and using the principal field. That is the resource-based. The S3 bucket, cross-account access, and using principal field. So that's it for today. Hope you like this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also follow DevOps Challenge Hub LinkedIn page. I organize a contest and quizzes every day. So please participate in that. And also follow WhatsApp channel. I post updates regularly. Thank you for watching this video. See you again in the next video.